throughout the 30-year period, not only does the flip tax stay at 30% for anyone who purchases now and lives there for the next 20 years, you're right, it's still 30%. But there's also an income level to the people you can sell to. There's a restriction on that, and it's based on the Mitchell Lama formula, the same formula that you compute what the maximum income is of someone who can reside in an affordable unit, purchase an affordable unit going forward. That's in the plan for 30 years. There's also a limit as to what you can sell for, the price, right? It's the 198, it doubles after the first year, and then it gets 7.5% every year. So this is truly an affordability plan, otherwise our name wouldn't be on it. So it's not to make people, I won't say rich, it's not to provide a windfall to people. It is affordability, and the reason that the flip tax exists is to fund the reserve fund, right? So it's for the upkeep of the building. So it's truly affordable for 30 years for people of certain incomes who can buy at a certain price, and the profit is going to be split in some proportion between the corporation and the individual family when they sell. So in our minds, it's truly affordable in somewhat of a Mitchell Lama co-op model.
Thank you. We call it a flip tax, but in reality it's a transfer fee. And as Rich pointed out, this was an extremely complex negotiation. Certainly, this is the first time that DHCR has been involved in orchestrating something like this. And the question became, how much money could the landlord make in doing the conversion with the cooperation of DHCR and the Assemblyman's office and everybody else involved? So it became a tug of war trying to come up with the correct number, because you are absolutely being given the right to purchase your apartments at significantly below the market value. And I can say that, it's very easy for me to say it, but one of the things that we're going to suggest you do when we get closer to, after the red herring comes out and we get closer to moving this thing forward, is something that I suggested to you when we first met probably 6 years ago. And that is the old Cy Sims ad that their best customer, an educated consumer is their best customer. And so what I'm going to, I suggested you do it years ago. I'm going to suggest you do it 6 months from now when the offering plan comes out. We want you to travel around and get a handle on what the market value of your apartment would be as a cooperative, to recognize, and maybe we're wrong, but we don't think we are, recognize the fact that what your board has been able to negotiate with the assistance, tremendous assistance, of Rich and the Assemblyman, is a significantly below market transaction. And so the question then becomes the windfall. Now the question was, is this typically in these types of plans? And the answer is yes. When we do something with regard to this type of windfall, and we've done it with Mitchell Lama cooperatives, a large chunk of the money comes back to the community to be able to do repairs and maintenance going forward and maintain the affordability of the complex. And please let me finish answering the question.
Simple clarification. I was referring to not the fact of the flip tax, but rather the sudden halt at 30%. I was in earlier discussions, I was imagining that tapering. And so this was surprising.
Right. Well, you know, it was all part of the negotiation.
Please repeat.
The question he said was that he wasn't questioning the existence of the flip tax. It was, he envisioned a flip tax which would ultimately go much further down. And what I was saying is that whenever we do these type of plans with Mitchell Lama cooperatives becoming market cooperatives, is usually a transfer fee that runs 40% or more in order to provide a fund to to pay down the mortgage and to provide ongoing structural repairs to the complex so that future generations of owners aren't going to be hit with huge costs in maintaining an aging housing stock. And all real estate is a deteriorating asset, so it has to be constantly maintained. Part of the reason that you're going to have to spend more money now is because it hasn't been fully maintained over the life of the property. So the number 50% initially and then 30% was something that was negotiated over years to try to come up with something that was fair, as opposed to a percentage that started even higher and didn't go much lower than where it presently is. And the concern of the board was that if we started too much higher, it would create a disincentive for tenants to buy their apartments, and we didn't want to do that. But we also did calculations of how much we needed to maintain a reserve fund going forward to be able to maintain the affordability, and because ongoing structural repairs play right into the question of affordability, the number has to be high enough to make certain that the fund is there, because the next generation of owners will not be paying that percentage, but will have to pay for the ongoing repair costs.
Two things. First of all, just to be clear, the flip tax is only on the net profit. So, if you buy it for $100 and you sell it for $200, that flip tax only applies to that second $200. You're not paying it across the whole sale. Secondly, I see the joists there, and I think, to be fair, it is a tenant meeting. So what I would do is I would ask you to sort of wait at the end. I need to let tenants speak first.
I'm going to answer the questions.
So, yeah, but I would rather let tenants speak first than come to the end.
They've asked questions and they haven't really been answered.
Well, we do have some experts I need to do that.
Excuse me, I think that the president of the only building that is privatized in this community and has gone through the fight for some metering might be somebody that you want to hear the recommendations from.
Joyce, you can talk after the fact.
Joyce, let's have the tenants speak first, and then we'll come back up.
Up to you folks.
The next gentleman.
Raise your hand. You want to hear me, raise your hand. If not,
Joyce, please.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
I'm leaving. It's not for me, it's for you, but forget it. Bye-bye. What's that? Well, you know.
My name is David Bastioni. Two questions. First one is this building be converted into a condo or a co-op? The second relates to the condition for resale. There's something about you can only sell this to persons of certain income, and want to know if there is a time limitation. When I buy the apartment, is there a time limit in which I can sell?
I'm going to answer the first part, which is going to answer the second part. The answer is that we elected to do a co-op conversion rather than a condominium conversion, primarily because you can't have a mortgage on a condominium building under New York's real property law. So if we did a condominium conversion, the actual purchase price of the apartments would be significantly more, because the mortgage on the building would have to be amortized over all of the apartments. So in order to keep the prices at a reasonable level for the purchase of the apartments, we opted for a co-op so that there could be a mortgage on the building, and you would then have to borrow or take from savings a lower amount of money.
And the answer to the second part of the question is that you can sell at any time. As the 30-year period goes on, the selling price you can sell at goes up by 7.5% a year. And then correspondingly, the incomes of the people who would be eligible to purchase your apartment also go up by 7.5% a year. So you can sell at any time. The longer it goes out, the more you can sell for. Of course, there's market considerations in that, and the income of the prospective purchaser is up as well.
decide to have a market value. When we're assessed for property taxes, is there going to be any consideration of what we actually pay, or is it just going to be, well, this is a 4-room apartment in Manhattan where the doorman is worth what it's worth?
So this particular property does not pay real estate taxes. You pay tax equivalency, which goes to ESD, Empire State Development. It's presently now, it is computed just like real estate taxes would be for a Mitchell Lama building on the shelter rent formula. So the deal with ESD going forward is that for as long as a unit is either rented or sold to under an affordable basis, so if any of you purchase and sell to a qualified purchaser, or as long as you're renting, you continue to pay shelter rent. For any units that the sponsor sells at market, once he sells it at market, there starts a phase-in from a shelter rent computed tax equivalency payment to a market rate tax equivalency payment, which would be just like paying regular real estate taxes, but it's just called tax equivalency. So for your unit, you're subject to shelter rent as long as it's an affordable unit.
Just one question. Could you explain what shelter rent is for?
The formula for shelter rent, and this applies, it's the maximum tax exemption for all of our Mitchell Lama buildings except for 1 or 2 in Westchester, I believe. It is the revenue paid by residents, less utilities, times 10%. That's the tax.
And let me comment about the real property tax. It's not based upon the value of your apartments. Under the state's real property tax law, apartments and co-ops and condominiums are taxed as if they were rental apartments. So, and this has been the case for a number of years.
The other thing that you will be able to take advantage of, and next week in the legislature we're going to reauthorize it, is a co-op condo tax abatement. And so many people from my Manhattan area of my district have been calling my office incessantly asking, is this going to go away, is this going to change, is it going to stay the same? It looks right now like it's going to stay the same, and it's something you all will be able to take advantage of as owners.
Just asking apartment rates or roommates, what are the rules or their
Roommates? Sorry, roommates.
yes, is there some kind of rule or internal mechanism or discussion about people who need or already have a flatmate and how that is all going to work, especially the flatmate may have the significant part of the income while the person whose apartment it is may not. And so how does their income get calculated into any of these things?
So I assume for this situation that you're describing that the roommate is already on the income affidavit.
Yes.
Right? And so if you notice there's a section called a bona fide Mitchell Lama tenant, and it talks about family members, which is a term defined in our regulations. So as long as the person who cohabitates meets the definition of family member, and a significant other meets that definition, it is on the income affidavit, and would otherwise qualify for succession, they're entitled to stay in the apartment, and the same benefits of the affordability plan extend to them as extend to you.
Well, if the person is clearly not a family member, it's a flatmate, you know.
Just a roommate.
Just a roommate.
Well, there's a definition. Can you establish a dependency upon one another for occupancy of that apartment? You share the rent?
Yes.
Well, then the answer is yes. Then it can stay. Then there were bona fide Mitchell Lama tenants.
Yeah, they're on the income affidavit, you said?
They're on the income affidavit.
Right.
Then you're fine.
Then you're fine.
Then you're fine.
But if their income is significantly higher than mine.
Well, that's why we asked whether they're on the income affidavit. So both your incomes are being reported for determination of whether you pay a surcharge, right? So then you've established succession rights under the regulations. So let's just flip it over. If there was someone there who was your flatmate, roommate, whatever you call it, but you didn't put them on the income affidavit, right? And then you moved out and they tried for succession, they would not be permitted to stay. But if they were there for a 2-year period and on the income affidavit, then they can stay. Okay?
Hi, my name is Susan Wade. I live in Island House, and I have a question about the reserve fund. I was under the impression that our building already had an existing reserve fund, and if so, has that money been spent down? And specifically in regard to the elevator work that's being done now, is that being paid out of the upcoming $6 million reserve fund that's going to be established? Basically what happened to our reserve fund, if I'm correct in that. Thank you.
Island House does have a reserve fund, and in fact, the recent elevator contract that was approved is being paid for out of that reserve fund. My understanding is that the $6 million that the owner has to put into the special reserve fund, that he will get a credit against that amount of money to the extent certain work, and elevator work is part of it, has already been paid for out of the housing company funds. As with the dissolution of any housing company, the balance in the reserve fund goes to the owner. In this case, the owner, in putting together the affordability plan, has committed to a $6 million reserve fund. The $1 million that I think it costs for the elevators, he will receive a credit against that $6 million payment.
My name is John Garvey. I keep thinking back to what someone Kellner said at the beginning of the session, that there have been 0 buildings that have successfully converted so far. So I'm wondering, what makes this building different? Why has it been able to convert? Are there any legal challenges that could prevent it from going forward? And are there things, once the July agreement has been obtained, are there things the landlord could do to reverse the process and derail it?
So it was actually Rich who said that. The reason why this has never happened before is based on a couple of reasons. One, the point in history that we were at. Mitchell Lama was designed to be a program that existed for 20 to 30 years, and we're coming to the end, the useful end of that life. And I think as you all see with the work going on in the building, with some of the complaints about the violations, some of the apartments, there needs to be work to maintain these buildings, and this is a plan. The reason why this is the first is this is the first time an owner has agreed to such a thing. You need, two to tango is the old saying, and there's a unique relationship here between the city, the state, the HCR, and people who own these buildings because it's Roosevelt Island and because of the construct that is Roosevelt Island. And so the whole goal here was to create a plan where once it goes forward, there is no turning back. So as Rich mentioned before, if for whatever reason the Attorney General does not approve the offering plan, or you all choose to say, hey, we're not going to buy, we want to continue as renters, the landlord is locked in for the next 35 years into this plan. There are such significant penalties in this plan if the landlord were to attempt to reverse it, that he would be left financially destitute. I don't think I'm stating on something that's unfactual there. So the reason why DHCR is standing here, the reason why I'm standing here, the reason why your tenant leadership is standing here is because this is a very exciting thing. This is hopefully an insurance policy for all of you. You've all benefited from being in Mitchell Lama and living on Roosevelt Island, and we want you all to continue to benefit from living on Roosevelt Island. You all committed to living in affordable housing and starting a new community. You deserve to continue that. And that's why all of these safeguards and trigger mechanisms have been put into place to protect you all. That was always the key. Rich and I think Rich is going to be happy when this is all done, because he's going to be sick of the 7 calls I call him each and every day, sometimes at home, sometimes at night. My wife often wonders why I go and lock myself in the bathroom and scream at loud volumes, and oftentimes I'm letting my frustration out on Rich, who has, again, just done immense and yeoman's work on behalf of all of you. And Rich reminds me each and every day that this isn't about re-op. It's not about how much money the state's going to get. It's not about any credit I'm going to get. It's about all of you, and making sure that all of you can maintain and continue to live in your apartments in an affordable way, whether as owners or as renters.
So once the ground lease extension is approved by REOC and the housing company is dissolved and the affordability plan is operative, the following month people will be offered new leases. Those leases will include Those leases will include 2 increases, the current year's RGB and last year's. And then you look at your AMI classification, and if there's something to be added on, you add it on. So in this case, it would be 2 2.25, I believe, and 3.75. And that would make up for the increase. The last increase here that we ordered was 2009. And there was supposed to be another budget submitted and an increase ordered if that was necessary. Because we were involved in this whole negotiation, we let that process slide. So in exchange for that, when you get your new lease, there would be last year's RGB, this year's RGB, and then you have to look at your AMI classification. So it would be about 6%, it sounds like. I don't know what the maintenance would be, and Stuart maybe can answer. I mean, I think the answer is there is no number what the maintenance would be once an offer plan goes forward, but I'll let
our anticipation is that the maintenance number will closely track what the rent numbers are. But again, we need to see the final budget, and particularly all the footnotes to the final budget, in order to confirm that those numbers are true and that they will be true going forward into the future. What you have to watch out for is a situation where the first year you have a certain number, and then for one reason or another, it jumps up the second, third, and following years. And so our analysis of the budget and therefore the maintenance you'll be paying will be focused on maintaining it at an affordable level going forward. And I can't tell you what that number is as yet. We're still waiting to get the final monthly figures, but again, we're talking about a first year being at the earliest starting the second half of 2013. So, and it's probably just as likely the first calendar year would be 2014. So that's going to, what happens with payroll costs, energy costs, insurance costs over the next 12 months is going to make all the difference in the world. So as we get closer to D-Day, then we'll be able to hone in on what the numbers actually are. But as I said, the attempt will be to keep the numbers at a number that's not greater than what the rate is.
Sharon Berman again. I want to thank all of you. I think we've gotten answers to many of our questions. And Frank, I think you deserve special thanks for being alone. I wonder, many of us have specific questions. I don't want to go into some of my concerns tonight because, I mean, everybody has their own. Is there any way you can set up some sort of, I don't know, counseling or informational programs or anything like that so that some of us, I suspect all of us have very specific questions that have to do with family members, apartment size, roommates, you know, moving up, moving down, all of those.
I think, you know, people are going to walk out of here tonight, and as often I do, 11 o'clock at night, I wake up in the middle of the night and go, damn, I should have asked that, you know. But, you know. And so I think probably the best way to do this is one of two ways. I think there's an Island House Tenants Association email, right? And so I think emailing them to Graham there, or calling my office. Tony Morenzi, my chief of staff, is here. He's been working on the island now 30 years. You know, we can be a clearinghouse and we can get you in touch with the proper person, whether it's a financial counselor, whether it's getting the answer from Stewart, whether it's getting the answer from DHCR. We can, you know, feel free to contact my office. That's what we're here for. We've been living with this for a long time now. We may actually have the answers ourselves, knock on wood. But please, again, and as Stewart said, this is yet another step. We're going to have more informational meetings. So the goal here is to get the maximum amount of information out to all of you to make that educated decision. So never be shy about reaching out and asking a question.
So two things. I'm glad to come back out, work something out with Brandon about when people are available. I'll definitely come out some afternoon or something. For any of those people, 2 or 3 people who had questions about their individual apartments, I know you have a meeting afterwards, and I have a ride waiting for me. So just write down your information, email if you have it, give it to Graham. This way I don't have to interrupt your meeting on the way out. And I'll definitely get back to you with answers. And like I said, if you have an email, definitely write it down. Okay.
And we get many questions to the HCA mailbox, and we try and respond to them within 24 to 48 hours. And if not, we send them on to Rich or Micah or Stuart, so that when we get information, we can get back to people as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. It's been very helpful and very clear. I just have a quick question about the electrical heating system. The electrical heating system. The windows are going to be replaced before they implement the
just to be clear, sub-metering is going to be implemented at the same time that you all become a co-op. So let's be clear about that. It's not going to happen beforehand. And I appreciate you bringing up the digital thermostats because that's something I left out earlier. I apologize. One of the things that the Public Service Commission mandates now with electrically heated buildings is a programmable thermostat that allows you to control your heating. And remember, you are going to be the ones applying to the Public Service Commission for sub-metering, so you can make it a part of that submission if it isn't already mandated under the law.
Right, that appears to be the end of the question. So what we're going to do now is, I think we will let Michael leave. I don't know if Stuart wants to stay or not stay. Before Michael leaves, let me just say again, I have never met an elected official like this gentleman we have next to us, and we are so lucky to kind of aside and to continue to have them aside. So please, a round of applause for my friend.